All right, welcome. We are back in AP English. This is Introduction to Republic 6. I'm going to work through this information. I'm on the whiteboard. I'm going to work pretty quickly here because I only have about 15 minutes of presentation time. I can do this. I can do Republic 6 in about 15 minutes, but one of the reasons is because most of you have actually been exposed to the Platonist view of the theory of the forms, and that's what we're going to call Republic 6. Our mnemonics stop working in terms of numerology. Our mnemonics stop working somewhere around Republic 5. Some of you will be able to say, well, you can kind of stretch it with that whole 3 waves plus 2, blah, 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 to get you to 5. But by 6, we're kind of done with the mnemonics that are numerical. But that's okay, because by Republic 6, we are now ready for the answer to the myth of Maverick. 5 bones drops on the floor. Why should I give it back every time? And how could I ever get to the point where I would give it back and actually be happy to do so? The actual answer is finally coming. It's taken Socrates a long time. I should say Plato, right? It's taken Plato a long time to finally get to the answer that he's going to give. The answer that he's going to give comes in the 3rd wave of Republic 5. You remember those waves? The first wave, remember, was his view of women. The second was his view of family. And then the third is his view of the philosopher king. And there's that famous quote that he will provide from your lecture packet notes. Even I've highlighted that famous line where he says, you will never be able to have a legitimate kind of group until you have a leader who is a philosopher. It's often called the philosopher king, the philosopher leader. And it will be at that point, at the beginning of Republic 6, that Glaucon will ask, what is a philosopher? And you could argue that this is where Plato's been gesturing the whole time. He's been wanting to get us to this point where we finally out loud say, okay, dude, what is a philosopher? And then what he'll do is he'll use Republic 6 and 7 to answer that question, what is a philosopher? In Republic 6, he's going to say, a philosopher is the individual who understands the forms, who seeks after the forms. What that means we'll get to in a moment. And then in Republic 7, he's going to give the famous word picture of the allegory of the cave. Taken collectively, this is now the heart of Republic. If, for example, you go to university, it's really ironic. I actually got an email yesterday from an old student of mine who said, in an honors program, we're actually working now with Plato, and all they're giving to us is just a little cutting from Republic, and it is Republic 7. That's very unusual. It's not unusual, because the dialogue itself is so long, you really don't give to college students anymore this full thing unless they're working at the graduate level to ask them to read it. Normally, Republic 7 is kind of excised, and when we get to Republic 7, it'll probably have to be on Thursday, given that we're not working tomorrow, okay? So now let's talk real quickly about the Platonist view of the philosopher, okay? And he's going to talk about the philosopher as being the individual who is interested in the forms. Now, this is what we will call the Platonist theory of the forms, all right? Now, what does that mean? Well, this is a very difficult concept often to explain. And so over the years, what I've done is I've tried to invent a way to help you understand this concept. And the way that I do this is to draw 2 boxes. And the minute I do this, iconically, some of you will begin to remember earlier lectures that maybe you were exposed to, okay? And that's okay. I was doing that on purpose for us to be able to now return to it in a more acute and maybe focused way. Above the first box, we will put the word images. That's the word often translated. And then above the second box, we're going to put the word ideas or concepts, or let's use Plato's word, forms. Okay? It's a strange use of the word, forms, and we'll kind of try to explain why. Now, what Plato is going to do is he's going to imagine Socrates now having this conversation. I've always imagined this happening at the fountain at the mall, where Socrates takes several of his students and he says, come on, I need to tell you what a philosopher is. Let's go in the bookstore. And so they go into the bookstore and they walk up to that section in the bookstore that some of you are maybe familiar with, where the calendar section resides. And there's the brand new calendar for the Sports Illustrated swimsuit model or for the Victoria's Secret models. And some of you are maybe familiar with this. You've probably seen in the lockers of some of the gentlemen in our building, they have these women standing there with virtually no clothing on, the half-parted lips, the seductive look. Of course, let's point out that if any one of these women walked up to any of the boys at Worland High School and said hello to them, those boys would just wee themselves and run away, most likely, you see. But be that as it may, right, you're maybe familiar with this. And so in our first box here, we will put a beautiful body, okay, whatever that is, a beautiful body. And yet, as we've said before, maybe in kind of introductions to this idea, the thing about beautiful bodies, like Sports Illustrated swimsuit models, I mean, how would you like it if you were a Victoria's Secret model and you knew this? This is kind of what's coming for you, is that inevitably we know that what's going to happen to that body is that it's going to begin to sag and bag. We know that. It's inevitable, right? We're going to end up with those thingies, right? Those thingies from church, right, girl, the old women, you know, have this stuff, this thingy here. Right, you start getting, right, okay, and sooner or later, right, we know this is true, that swimsuit model is going to show up at the side of some pool and everybody there is going to go, whoa, 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 honey, just put stuff back on. Nobody wants to see it anymore. No matter how stunningly beautiful she is now, there is coming a point where people will pay her money to put the clothes back on and say, we are not interested in seeing it anymore. But in the future, even though she herself is no longer physically attractive, there will be other beautiful women and men constituted as beautiful bodies. See, we understand something about beautiful bodies. Sooner or later, they aren't beautiful anymore. They kind of go away. Having said that, though, we understand that there is this thing that's kind of for sure. We feel like it's fairly for sure, for certain. And Plato says it this way: while a beautiful Victoria's Secret model herself will continue to grow old, sag and bag, and no longer be beautiful, there will be this perpetuation of this thing that we will call beauty. Beauty. To what degree can you actually touch beauty? Well, yeah, not so easy, right? Not so easy. Socrates will continue to play this game over and over again as he kind of exposes this idea. For example, the student, I think I maybe shared with you once, the student who came in, for example, to me and said he didn't believe in God. And I went, oh, okay. And he said, don't you want to know why? And I said, oh, okay. And he went like this. And I said, God is a table? And he went, no, look, I can do that with the tables, so I believe in tables. When you can do that for me with God, then I'll believe in God. And I went, oh, okay, but can I ask one question? And he said, sure. He was our top math student at the time, went on to study at the Academy, Air Force Academy, is their top math student. And I said, how about this? What is that? And I wrote that on the board. And he went, come on, dude, don't treat me like a child. And I said, no, I'm serious. What is that? And he's like, dude, everybody in the world knows what that is. That's the number 2. And I said, yeah, but is it? And he's like, what do you mean, what is it? Of course, I said, yeah, but think about this. That could mean 2. And if we really wanted to kind of totally screw up 3rd graders, we could tell them that is a 2. Right? Where is 2? Because I'm not going to believe in it until you can 2 for me. And don't hold up 2 objects for me. That isn't the number 2 either. Where is... Because we understand something. This is just a symbol that represents this thing we will call, right? Number. Where is that at? I mean, imagine how you could screw up, you know, a bunch of third and fourth graders if they were to say to their math teacher, we're not doing math anymore until you show us where the number 2 is. Huh. Right? Because the poor math teacher would have to admit, well, yeah, we're kind of dealing with a concept that you don't, notice I used the word concept. You don't see, touch, taste, feel. Let's play the game as we did, I think, last year when we did Emerson. How about Ruthie's tree? Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at it, Ruthie's tree. There it is, right? You can see, touch, taste. We won't get any further with Ruthie's tree, right? But we understand something about Ruthie's tree. Fundamentally, it is this thing we call nature, isn't it? Or this thing we call energy. Where is that at? Touch that. You can touch the tree. But what about the energy involved? We can continue to play this game. I maybe shared with you that many, many years ago, I was had a pal who told me that he wanted me to hang out with some guys who had spent some years of their life doing some pretty nasty stuff, and heroin was one of them. And they were all heroin addicts. And he said, you need to maybe talk to these guys. And I said I would do it only if it could happen at the park on that day in the month of July. My oldest daughter Ashley was 2, and I always took her to the park. That was the rules in July. And I said, we'll meet there. And we were having this conversation, and I said to these guys, I said, really, I don't think we like drugs at all. And one of the guys looked at me and said, you must be on dope to say that, because we're all heroin addicts. Of course we like drugs. That's all we want. That's all we think about. And I said, yeah, but I don't think so at all. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty convinced that drugs are not what we want at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even know that we like them. And one of them said, I remember looking at me with that kind of really quizzical look and so incredulous look. And he's like, if it isn't dope, what is it? And it was just at that moment, how the universe kind of conspires to bring you moments. It was just at that moment that my daughter Ashley was running through the grass, beautiful day, arms are out, her little piggy tails, right? And you know how little children do this kind of thing. And I said, well, and I just pointed at my daughter. I said, it seems to me that what she has. And then I just did this, because, really? Think about it. That's why people stone. That's why. It's not because they like dope, right? I said, we don't do heroin because we like heroin. Let's be fair about it. It costs a lot of money. It deteriorates the physical body to ways in which any person doing the dope knows it's bad for him or her. It isn't the dope that we want. We don't even like the dope. In fact, we grow to resent it, as a matter of fact. What we really want is what my daughter had. Just that feeling of total freedom. No worries, no constraints. That's what we want. We think, of course, we have this tendency to think that we'll get it, right? But it doesn't work out that way. But there's a reason why it doesn't work out that way. The reason it doesn't work out that way is that everything in this box of or related to the 5 senses, that is to say, you can see it, taste it, touch it, it's going to go away. Everything you would put in this box is going to go away, inevitably. This, on the other hand, in the second box, represents not the physical, the first box, but the metaphysical. That is to say, that which is beyond the physical. Okay? The metaphysical, beyond the physical. And then Socrates makes a really interesting observation. He says, what about a human being? Let's just write the word body there. And as I think I've said to you maybe once or twice before, imagine for a moment if I'm giving this lecture and I croak. I just fall right down. I suppose, Shriver, you could go worse ways, right? I'm talking about Plato and I just croak. After being kind of freaked out about the fact that I'm actually gone, dead, you would say that about me. Oh, the old man's gone. I guess no more annotations. Do we have to still write the paper next? Yes, yeah, but if my body could talk, my corpse could talk, it would say out loud, I'm not gone. I'm not gone. And you would say, but you are gone. And I would say, my corpse would say, everything about me, though, is still here. If you're going to use the language, I'm gone, Socrates now makes you start to answer this question. If you're going to use the language, I'm gone, the question is obviously, who is gone, or what is gone? Because clearly, the body is not yet deteriorated to be gone. Well, let's go ahead and call it what he'll call it, soul, or spirit. And now we'll get to the book 6, and it's very simple. Are you ready for this? Book 6 is simply this. The philosopher is the individual who understands this. Are you watching my whiteboard? This is actually more real than this. That's the philosopher. The philosopher spends all of his or her time then more interested in this. By the way, I should point this out. Socrates is not arguing that this does not exist, this first box. He admits that it exists, but he will say it this way, even about you. You exist, but not for long. But not for long. It's just a matter of time. To that degree, the philosopher will spend more time here, more interested in this. Now, are you ready for this? He says it this way. If you want a real leader, you want somebody that's interested in this. Right? Because, I mean, check this out. Watch my whiteboard. There's a huge difference. I mean, freshmen debate this with me, but there's a huge difference, for example, between the exchange of fluids and love. Right? Huge difference. They're not even in the same universe. Touch love. Show me love. I want to see love. No, you don't get it, dude. You can't. It's a concept. Exchange of fluids, of course, is physical. Right? But love? No, you don't get it. You don't see, taste, touch that. Philosophers that are interested in this as opposed to this. So come back when we take a look at book 7, and we'll look at a word picture to help amplify this concept. Thank you.